It has now been 1 year since that series of shootings at Asian-owned spas in the Atlanta area that left 8 people dead, 6 of them Asian women. That attack served as a call to action for many to join Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders demanding to stop the hate and the attacks that spiked during the pandemic. But in many cases, the hate has not abated, and in some cases, it's gotten worse. Over the course of this half-hour special, Stop the Hate, a call for unity, we will highlight the problem in the hopes of illuminating possible solutions. We'll talk with actor George Takei and a lawmaker about the hate that she says she's experienced in her own community. But we begin with Juju Chang, who traveled to Atlanta, where the grief and pain of the spa shootings came to a head 1 year ago.
Good evening to you, Lindsay. It's hard to believe it's been 1 year since a lone gunman walked into 3 Asian-owned or operated spas and opened fire here in Georgia, killing 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian women. It was a galvanizing moment in the AAPI community, and I've spent the last year keeping in touch with activists and family members, victims' families, as they heal and grieve, and most of all, try to find meaning in the senseless loss. Robert Peterson's mom, young AU, loved nurturing her plants, watching them thrive and blossom, just like her 2 sons.
She was just happy that we came through and we were good people.
Her 39-year-old son now lives in her home, filled with her spirit, though his heart has weighed heavy ever since she was murdered a year ago.
I couldn't get the day out of my head. And my mother was 63 before she passed away. And I want to remember her for those 63 years that she gave me, rather than this one day that he took her away.
An orphan in South Korea, she fell in love and married an African-American soldier, her life full of struggle, determination, and love for her children and grandchildren.
My mother was a traditional Korean woman. She loved family. She loved to work. She loved to cook. She was a little silly at times, goofy. And I know that if she was here, she would have been angry.
Last March, Young-ae was one of 8 people shot and killed at 3 Asian-owned or operated spas 30 miles apart in the Atlanta, Georgia area. 6 of the victims, Asian women. The horrific mass shooting captured the attention of the nation, already reeling from a string of seemingly endless attacks against AAPI Americans. The killer's last location, aromatherapy, where Young-ae worked at the front door, greeting customers and monitoring security cameras.
She was the last and only one killed at the spa that she was at. And she was shot 1 time in the face. She opened the door and he shot her, you know. My mother probably would have answered the door with a smile.
She would have seen his humanity.
She would have seen him for a person. And he didn't allow none of these people to express their humanity to him.
Shortly after he was arrested, the suspect told Cherokee County sheriffs that his murders weren't motivated by race, but sex addiction, and that he was just, quote, having a bad day.
He apparently has an issue, what he considers a sex addiction, and sees these locations as temptation for him that he wanted to eliminate.
To me, it really was hurtful that they humanized the perpetrator before they identified these 8 victims, before they humanized and told their stories. He got the benefit of the doubt when these victims did not. They were persecuted, they were negatively judged, they were stigmatized.
Thousands protested, demanding justice.
We are all together in this.
Like Atlanta-based voting rights activist Cam Ashling.
Why was that mass shooting such a galvanizing moment for the Asian American community?
It's horrific in how it was done. And we've been having problems, so it was just like the tipping point. We're pissed off, and we nationally rally to stop Asian hate.
We're not going to take it anymore.
We're not going to take it anymore. You know, it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable in America.
Last year, despite data that found a 261% increase in reports of alleged hate crimes against people of Asian descent in major cities, few were charged as such.
Cam, a Vietnam War refugee, believes the Atlanta murders revealed to others that racism against the AAPI community exists.
All of the businesses that were targeted were Asian-owned businesses. The targets of his execution were Asian women And on top of that, he has an addiction towards Asian women. I mean, that's a race situation. Like, how can you not say that this is a hate crime?
Why do you think so many of the victims remained invisible to, in many cases, to law enforcement, to reporters who had trouble bringing their stories to light?
Asian people are not into, let's all shine, national media on my tragedy, okay? We don't want our suffering and our tragedy on video forever. They don't trust law enforcement, they don't trust the media right now.
And yet the national spotlight helped galvanize activists and awakened allies to rally in solidarity, which inspired Young Ae's son, Robert.
We grew up both with a black father and a Korean mother. We experienced what it was like to be recognized as black, but we've also were recognized as being not fully Korean or not always embraced. And my mother made it sure that we didn't have to decide, that it wasn't one or the other, that we were both.
I know firsthand that the Korean American community can be very insular, frankly, at times prejudiced. But your mother would not sit with any of that.
She would not. Like say,
she wouldn't put up with any racism.
She wouldn't. She would be around her friends. And if they say things negative about black people, she would correct them. And she wouldn't tolerate it. And I think I learned the same thing.
Once covered in flowers and words of comfort, today some of the spas stand empty with different names. But the horror of what happened can never be erased.
I've been told that one day I will be able to look at her picture and smile again. Because right now, all I do is cry, or I try to avoid looking at the picture. One day I will be able to drive by certain places and not feel a sense of loss.
You know, sometimes when people lose family members after a long illness, they at least have the comfort of knowing that nothing was left unsaid, right? You didn't have that privilege of saying goodbye. What would you say to your mom?
I would just tell her that she knows I love her, and I'll make sure that I dedicate the rest of my life for people like her and people like me. But I'll work towards it every day, and I'll make sure that I'll make her proud.
Striving to do his best in memory of his mother. Our thanks to Juju Chang for that powerful report.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.